and I just heard this one yesterday. I was like, oh man, I got to steal it. I don't know who said it, but it ain't mine. He said, failure is the price of entry. Right? Like, you want to get in, you want to have that experience that you think that you see everybody or perceive rather. Failure is the price of entry. You have to fail. You got to do the damn thing. It's not going to meet your expectations. People are going to critique it. It's going to be gross when you go back and look at it 2 years later. Failure is the price of entry, right? Like, just do that, because if you're not failing, you're standing at the gate. You know.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the CM Mentors podcast. My name is Matt Graves. My co-host each week is Kyle Grandell, and we've got a couple fun guests today. Let's go. How you doing, Kyle?
Doing well, Matt. How are you?
Good. So we've got...
How's the weather down there in Texas?
Hot.
Yes.
Very hot.
What is hot for you? I need to understand that first.
I think in Houston yesterday they hit like 115 heat index.
Ooh.
And it was.
Okay.
I was in Austin this weekend, and it was. Yeah.
You just get wet.
It's not even fun. I just walked out like 5 steps out of my job trailer just a second ago. I was already sweating. I was like, this is not fun. So we got Jess and Jen here. They're I'm gonna let them do a little introduction to themselves, but they're both together, and this is special. We got them both together in the same room on different cameras, so we'll see what happens. But I don't know which one of you guys want to do an introduction, but you guys do all kinds of stuff together, podcasts, live shows, multiple on-stage presentations, which I think they're together right now because they're going to jump on stage as soon as we get off here. So I'll let y'all kind of give an introduction of all the awesome stuff y'all have been up to.
Okay, so we probably won't hit it all because I feel like sometimes it happens and we just we go through it and realize, oh, that just happened. So, but I am Jennifer Lacy, Jen, and I work for Robbins and Morton, general contractor. I'm their lean practice leader, and so that role is kind of how I crashed into Jesse and some of the stuff that we're doing. We're co-hosts to No BS with Jen and Jess. And we touch a lot of things. We got this afternoon, we're actually getting to go speak for the LCI COP in Dallas with Keon and Joe. And so that's going to be a fun party. And we have some books that we're going to talk about today. And we do some emotional bungee jumpers. And we just have a lot of fun things that we get to dabble in and have fun and continue to hopefully help make this construction industry better.
Every time I talk to Jess, I'm like, man, I don't know how you're doing stuff. Because I talked to Jess a number of times, and the first time I've got a chance to meet you, Jen, so I'm very happy to do so. But every time I talk to Jesse, I'm like, every time I log into LinkedIn, you've got something else going on. It's a bungee jumping, or it's a book, or you're in Vegas, or you're talking here, you're talking there. And like, I think he'll have a presentation in San Antonio in the morning, and he's talking in Dallas at night. Like, I can't keep up with him.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's just. It looks that way, right? Like there's times where, and it's funny because there's times where it's like, man, I don't have a speaking engagement this month. Oh my God, the world has forgotten me, and it's not a big deal, right? It's just something. So one thing I do that I think that adds to that, like I have my Monday morning hug, right? Every Monday I post a video thought. Well, when I'm traveling, I'll record those hugs. And then I post them later, right? And so it seems like I'm in Hawaii or I'm in Florida or I'm here. And no, I recorded 5 videos 6 months ago. I just haven't released that video. But yes, I will say the amount of activity, visibility that I've recently accessed. And when I say recent, I would say the last, year and a half, 2 years, has exploded dramatically. And like Jen said, I think, when we started doing the live streams, No BS with Jen and Jess, that was a thing, right? It's grown and it continues to grow as a community where we get to talk about have imperfect conversations about the human side of business. Right? That's the main stuff. And then the other part about it is because and it's almost why I launched my not almost, it's like a huge contributor as to why I launched my consulting business was as a result of sharing like my honest thoughts and observations about whatever we're talking about. It signaled to people that maybe I could help them. And so people started reaching out, and that's like for business, and then started reaching out like, hey, can y'all come talk about this thing? And hey, what do you think about this? So it opened this whole new world that wasn't like present at the time. It was there, I just couldn't see it. And then this other, and it's her fault. Like this thing, I've discovered like this really weird creative space in terms of like coming up with ideas. And I call her, and it's just like, hey, what do you think? And then it turns into something, right? So emotional bungee jumper. I had that idea over a year ago. We started doing it. Reciprocal propulsion. We're going to have that retreat this weekend. That idea came back a while back, right? The book, like different, hey, decentralized conference. We just had that. It's a little thing, and I share it, and it's like she fertilizes it and waters it, and I'm like, oh, okay, let's go do that. So there's an enormous amount of things going on, and I capture the video and I clip it up and I share it. So I think it's really not as big as it seems, but because you capture the video, and maybe this could be some advice for other like creators out there, like get you a GoPro, and whenever you're doing a career day, record yourself. And then you can use that one to like check yourself and improve yourself. But two, you can clip it up and post little things, because I record it because every once in a while I say something really smart. Like, oh, what did I say? I want to say that again. So anyways, that's kind of where we're at. And that's all the static or jazz or excitement that you see. It's not every day. I just post every day about stuff that I've been out there jacking around, having fun.
It's been awesome. I'll touch on that real quick. What you were just talking about the taking the camera and recording yourself, that's actually something Alex Becerra brought up, kind of one of his tips he had on his last podcast when he was with us. It was like, he was talking about, watching game film, right? He's a business athlete. He compares it a lot. So I was like, how can you do that? And he's like, well, I actually literally record myself and watch the game film. If I'm doing a presentation, I'll watch it back and say, oh, don't do that again, or don't do this, or those sort of things. So he gets a lot of input like that. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
And reps. I love that, and reps, because people don't like, we talk about that all the time, and just speaking, we speak a lot, and they're just like, how do y'all do that? Whatever. I'm like, we do this like all the time together on screen. So when we're in person, it's not like, oh, I got to talk with Jesse. What are we going to do? So when you're even with athletes, it's like the more fundamentals, foundational things. It's that reps. The more you do it, it becomes muscle memory, and then you're not stressed out every time you have to get up in front of people.
What y'all should do is go back and watch.
No, don't do it. Don't do it.
The very first live stream that we did together was 5S in relationships. Like set those first three. Watch them. And we watched them when we were doing the editing of the book, Clean in Love. And I'm like, damn, we sound like dummies. Like we're all over the place. Can't keep a coherent thought, and
interrupting. And then it was crazy. Yeah. But it was our first time together. And then we figured some things out. And then that turned into, again, a need for something that didn't exist. And then that's what created No BS with Jen and Jess.
Yes.
So how did you guys get together the first time? Because people talk to Matt and I about that.
No, you got to tell me.
So I'll get the story.
Jesse has a story for that.
Yeah. So the very first time we met, like in person, we were both on the 2019 LCI planning committee for LCI Congress, and we were in Fort Worth at the venue wherever they were going to have the thing at. We're all there, and Jen goes around and passes her business card to everybody. And I already kind of was aware of her because of LinkedIn. And we get up and we go walk the venue, and I left her card on the table, right? Like we weren't leaving yet. Anyways, the table was clear or whatever. We all come back to the room, and only my spot has her business card just still sitting on the table. Everybody else treasured and honored the be, apparently. So she grabs the card and she's like, I see how it is, and throws it on the table. I'm like, oh, she's pretty awesome, right? Like, she's already got a very commanding presence. And then she interacted that way. I was like, oh, wow, she's cool. And then, so like getting to spend time, you guys and folks out there, if you're listening, if you're going to be on a committee, do some damn work.
Yes.
If you're not going to do work, get the hell off. And so that's kind of my general attitude. And I slacked bad on that committee. But anyways, I got to see Jennifer, like she wasn't just there for clout and to market her company. She was actually contributing. I was like, oh, that's awesome. And so that kind of started the connection. Then fast forward a couple years, and there was we ended up Felipe Manriquez, you had him on your show, had decided to have a live stream with a whole bunch of us. And so it's like, hey, well, we need to get Jen there because it was all dudes, right? So bring Jen in. And I didn't really know her. I just said, hey, you should come play with these. Like, this is going to be cool. And that's when I first got to see like the energy and like the broader perspective. And when I say broader perspective, there's a lot of us, and it makes sense, right? To focus in on this scrum or tact or like the one thing. What I got to pick up from Jen was a broader perspective of all of those things, with really a focal point on people. So very people oriented. I said, I can get down with that. And then I reached out to her with the idea about having some live streams around the love letters that I had, because I thought she'd be crazy enough to do it. And so that's how it all, that's like the history, the origin story. Did I miss anything?
No, you did not.
Well, that's really cool. And I have to say, too, just from the one event that I did with Jen, was certainly that love for people, just from that short. I mean, that was the first time that I even met her and did that panel with her. That was a great time. And also, there's no shortage of energy. I've noticed that with both.
It works. It works really well. We feed off each other very well.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing. Like I was talking about that creative thing, because early in our earlier conversations, we were able to connect on this. Like, hey, people ever feel like tell you you're too much? And she's like, yeah. Like, what about you? It's like, oh hell yeah. Like we don't have that problem, right? Like it's her. Like our energy together is it like what you say collides.
Yes.
It's like the Big Bang Theory all the time.
Yes.
And it's complementary. So it has even though it's exhausting because of the work that comes from the ideas, it has a re-energizing effect to spend time with a kindred spirit or another cycle, however you want to frame it.
But also, I've learned that in the space, like even though we spend a lot of time together, we are also big on, creating space and environment for authenticity, vulnerability, like those kind of things. And we work in construction, which doesn't make sense. And so early on, how we show up, that was huge, but also the things we talked about and how we engaged with each other. It was huge for us to exhibit the behaviors that we expected in others. And that was like, it was key. So we would make sure that as whatever we were talking about, like we would go deep and we would really get to a place of vulnerability, but it was because of the trust we had with each other. It wasn't just, I was going to go out on a limb and take a chance and he could just come right back and just make me look really bad. Or he would go and get super vulnerable and I would just discount it or laugh it off. Like we both were, the respect we had for each other and the trust we had for each other, like it allowed for that space. And it is what has been missing in construction and why people don't allow their real whole selves to show up to work.
I found that just with the stuff I've been doing where, I mean, there was a period of time. So when I first started the newsletter, that's kind of the genesis of this whole thing that's going on now, right? The first newsletter and I'm at like 53 weeks, 54. I lost count again. Anyway, we just hit a year. And so just got over that. But at about 40 weeks, I kind of hit a spot where I was like, man, no one cares about this. Why am I even doing this? Like it kind of leveled off the growth. It kind of leveled off. And I was like, why am I even doing this? It's just a waste of time. But then every now and then I'd get like every couple of weeks, I'd get like an email. I was like, man, I really appreciate what you're doing. Like, it's really helped me. Like I've da-da-da-da. And then I'll exchange, can I ask you a question? And I started like people I found like, oh no, I really am like helping people. And so
Yes.
finally I said, like, if I'm just helping one or two people, it's all worth it to me. And then so
That's
still
it.
like I get messages all the time. Like I'm helping one guy, and I mean he's doing his onboarding right now. He's he'll probably listen to this. What's up, Kevin? He's leaving the military and going private sector, and he's been doing logistics and stuff for the military, but he's becoming construction management. And he's like, man, can you mentor me? And I was like, I guess I can. But we've had a lot of really good conversations and text messages and stuff. He's doing onboarding right now. And just like that alone, like that kind of stuff just keeps me going. Keeps like, makes it worthwhile just to kind of help people like that. And so anyway.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing.
You're always
It's like,
talking to a Getty.
The first time we did a video chat. I think he was suspicious of what I really was.
you just wanted to be the eighth wonder of the world. But so on your newsletter, you broke 1,000, right?
We did. I kind of gamed it. I was like, hey, we're getting 1,000 by the time we hit 1 year, and everyone share it. And so we got there. But I mean, we're now over 1,100. Like in the last week, it's like it's picked up steam.
Awesome.
So
That's amazing, man.
it's cool.
You know, I think I don't have any data, and I never will because I'm lazy. But I feel, or rather, my experience has been this: when I'm putting in effort into things that are going to serve other people, like if that's the purpose, nothing's going to stop it. Period. When I'm putting in effort to things that you know, for my own accomplishment or my own accolades, those things become very difficult.
Mhm.
But when I'm doing stuff, when I see other people doing stuff in service to others, like it's inevitable for that thing to blow up in hell. And for two reasons, I think. One, because like it's a really good thing to do, but two, because it is largely absent. That is not present out there in the types of products, messaging, shows, newsletters, etc. And so people can sense it, right? I mean, we were just at lunch, we were just talking about, you know, people using Chat GPT to draft the body of their posts, like their social media posts. And we have friends that do that. And it's like, there's times like, oh yeah, that's the robot. Oh, there she is. Oh, there he is. Oh, that's the robot again. You can almost sense it, the authenticity again, right? It's the authenticity. Like, what is it? Or maybe what we're trying to attack or working on attacking is, well, let's just be more people-y, right? Like, let's just be more vulnerable and honest and raw. Because of just think about it, the amount of damn energy we put into being professional and being executive presence. And like, if that's contrary to what I am, I'm wasting that energy. I could be doing something else with that damn energy. And while I'm putting on my makeup all the time, I'm suppressing the real pains, fears, concerns that I have, and nobody can connect with me because I'm just like a shell of what I really am. Like, I think it's a super complicated thing that I feel 100% we're attacking. And so, like, being on here with you guys, y'all are doing this to serve others. So that is me, and I believe there's more and more of us coming together and putting out content and different things for this purpose. And it's going to be slow, but we're going to have an impact. I totally believe we're going to have that impact.
And it's when you show up that way with all that armor and makeup and you're robotic, how do you think people show up to you? Like, they're not going to come and they're not going to be authentic. They're not going to, feel safe. They're not going to trust that, they can be their real self if they can see and observe that you're not willing to be your real self.
That's actually just somebody shared a YouTube video with me. I guess I saw it last night, but it was like, it's basically is LinkedIn hurting your career? And I forget who. I was going to look it up. I can't. But it was basically like the idea is it was put out by like one of the big YouTube channels, right? Like a big one. But it was like all about it. It was like in depth, and it wasn't just a spoof or nothing like that. But it was basically like, everyone's just so fake on there, right? And everyone's so fake, and it's just posting. It's very corporate driven and all these sort of things. And I was looking at it, I was like, man, like I've had a fair amount of success on LinkedIn, right? I've basically built this whole newsletter on the back of LinkedIn because that's the only, I don't have time for any other socials. That's the one I just started using, and here's where we are. But everything else takes more time. But I was like, why have I had success when I see people struggling, right? That are really trying hard to get traction. I think it's just that, like, I don't really care if I go viral. I'm just trying to put out good stuff. And I'm trying to be genuine. And I'm trying to, like, I make stupid, bad jokes and jokes that Chat GPT would ever make. And and it's just genuine interaction. And like, I'm trying to help. And it's like my actual thoughts. And I think that shines through, and everyone else is talking corporate talk and talking,
Yes.
Thank you, Google, for all the experience. I'm laid off now, but it's all those sort of things. Like, thank you for the layoff. I learned so much. Like, okay. Like,
yes.
But anyway, I found I've probably unintentionally, but through this newsletter, podcast, and all these things, I probably got more out of it than anybody else has, just on my own self-reflection and like realizing so much about myself and just like being open and vulnerable and all those sort of things. And I'm kind of doing it in public, which at first was hard, but now, I mean, you guys know, y'all do this. I would say, I think you do it all day, every day, probably, but you're always out there. And so you probably came to the same realization, but it's been, again, like I probably got more out of it, not in like all these accolades, all these things, because no one gives prizes for memes and newsletters, but just more on the whole, like I've had to re-examine myself to do this. So it's been cool. What about Kyle? I mean, what are your thoughts?
Well, no, it's perfect. And I was going to chime in because, I mean, Jess and Jen are just nailing it on the head, even for me. So what I've noticed is I started doing this podcast. Didn't really know why. Matt, you and I were like, let's do this thing. Where's it going to go? I don't know. We'll just do it and see what happens. See if people like it or not. And they are. And we've gotten some good messages from people reaching out, asking for help. So it's like, okay, we'll keep doing it then. But also, I've been examining, kind of my situation recently, and I've come to realize, I mean, all the good stuff happening in my business right now has actually come through this podcast. My executive coach met through this. My financer, my lending company met through this podcast. Matt, Jen, Jess, me and you. I mean, meeting other people too. It's all in some way. I'll almost even come back to this podcast. So just kind of taking that initial leap to just say, you know what, I'm just going to get back and see where it takes. I mean, good things just seem to be happening from it. It's just kind of wild. It's just couldn't even predict it.
Yeah.
Well, I think you said it earlier, Matt, when you said I just want to impact one or two people. And that's literally everyone at the beginning when we started this conversation, even with the 5S, and had no idea we were going to have a live streaming, we were going to have book, and we did like all these things. It was just we were going to have a conversation. And if one person shows up and happens to be listening and can then go and make a change, or it does something that impacts their life for the better, then like we have completely accomplished what we wanted to do. And that was our goal. And then I think what we found is by just going out to serve and have a conversation, people all of a sudden started coming into this space. And I mean, I think what blew our minds was they were people in the construction industry. It started with that. It's about 50% construction now, but it started with a lot of people in our space coming in and like so quick, getting vulnerable and sharing things that like they'd never spoken about before, and they're typing them and they're captured on the internet. Like Jesse talks about that all the time, and it's like from firms across, like large firms across the country. And these people are like, they're representatives of them because they, on their LinkedIn, they have their logos and things like that. And they're coming into this space and getting vulnerable and getting authentic and, kind of pulling back the armor and the things that they've been using to protect themselves. And it happened so quick. And we kept going like, how is this happening? Like it blew our mind every time. And finally it came back to, because we're exhibiting the behaviors that we want. And like, we can't expect other people to do things when we're not willing to do it.
Yeah. It's contagious.
It definitely is. And that's talk about just kind of getting started, stuff like that. So when I first met Kyle, we kind of had a few phone calls and those sort of things, and was like, man, we got to do something together. And I don't remember if it was me or him. We said, let's do a podcast. I remember asking him, I said, I think it was me. It was definitely me. Kyle's like, okay. And I said, all right, cool. do you know how to do it? And he's like, I don't have a clue. And I was like, yeah, me neither. I'll figure it out. And I knew Substack had a podcasting button I could hit and do something. And I think the first 5 we didn't even go to Apple, Spotify, or any of those things. It was just on Spotify or just on Substack because I hadn't figured it out yet. And you blame Jess, blame Jen. I'm gonna blame Jess. This is Jess's fault because every time I talk to Jess,
It's always his fault.
it's always the theme of just get started, you'll figure it out. And if I would have waited till I figured out how to get it on Apple and figured out how to get it on Spotify and figured out how to do this, we still wouldn't be started. And now we're 20 episodes in, something like that. And so it was just because we started. I mean, I eventually got the first 5 onto Apple. it took 5 weeks, but we got started and got it rolling, and so here we are. So I wanted to ask, and I bet I know Jess's answer, but I want to know what those answers. So if somebody's going to listen to this and they think, man, I really want to kind of get started doing something like this, being vulnerable, being out there, I don't want to call it a creator because I don't feel like I'm a creator. I guess I am, but like just wants to start doing something to give back, help out. Y'all got any advice on how to get started?
I will. Mine's easy. He'll get into the technical part of it. Mine is just, it is so easy to get in your own head, and like it is so easy. Like the things that stop most actions or most ideas are self-talk. And so for me, like if you sit there and you allow yourself to think about it and overthink about it, the more you do that, you're going to find all the reasons why you don't need to do it. And so as soon as something pops in your head, my 2 biggest things is, number 1, share it with somebody. Like as soon as, and again, the stuff that we've been able to do, it did not happen in a silo. It did not happen one person and let me pull you in. It was like, hey, I've got this little spark of something. And then all of a sudden now it's out there. So you can't just now go hide behind it. And 2, then what else can be, how can somebody else help you grow it? That's the biggest thing. And the second one is just do it. Like it's going to suck. You're going to fail. It's not going to be great. It's not going to be perfect. And that's okay because nothing ever is for the first time. Yeah. And so just start it. And then again, every time, once you do that, now you have that to build upon. And so those are the 2. Those are easy for me. Jesse goes into more technical things.
Well, Kyle, so you got to experience the Next Gen Builders Conference, right? With Davis and Walker and Jen and everybody else. Like that was an idea that Davis had in his head for a long time. And he made the mistake of telling me. And then we were all out at dinner one time and introducing, like everybody was meeting each other I think I was the only one that knew everybody there.
Yeah. First time like in person, but we had known each other because of LinkedIn. Yes.
And I said, hey y'all, Davis has an idea. and it turned into what now there's been 2, there's some more on the books. Like you got to get it out there. So what I'll say for like folks out there that are on the cusp or have an idea, there's a couple of thinking models, right? 3. 1, and I just heard this one yesterday. I was like, oh man, I got to steal it. I don't know who said it, but it ain't mine. He said, failure is the price of entry.
Bam.
Right? Like, you want to get in, you want to have that experience that you think that you see everybody or perceive rather. Failure is the price of entry. You have to fail. You got to do the damn thing. It's not going to meet your expectations. People are going to critique it. It's going to be gross when you go back and look at it 2 years later. Failure is the price of entry, right? Like just do that, because if you're not failing, you're standing at the gate. You're not getting it. So that's one model. The other model is the cemetery is full of ideas.
Yes.
Right? Like how many enormous, beautiful, life-changing ideas have people taken to the grave with them? And you got to decide, like really, you are making a conscious decision to rob the world of that idea for the sake of your comfort, or put the damn thing out there, fail a little bit, and figure it out. The third model is all you really need to do is go from 0 to 1. The best way to go from 0 to 1 is build a group of people or one other
That
crazy
pushes you.
that you go and dive head first into the shallow end, right? Like just at least, like if you're struggling, find somebody that motivates you. And then I mean, guys, like the way we've all connected, we didn't know each other. We ran across each other on LinkedIn. And once somebody reached out first, and now we're like, I support y'all and I feel supported by y'all. And so if you have this idea and you don't know how to do it, and freaking reach out to somebody and say, hey, I got a dumb idea. Can I kick it around with you? Yeah, hell yeah, let's do it. I mean, Matt, you described the exact way it needs to happen with Kyle. Like, hey, let's do a podcast. Hey, great idea. Have you done one? No. Oh, shit, me neither. Well, hell, let's just do this. That's it. I mean, yes, there are other ways to do it. You can map it out and you can do market research and you can do all this crap.
You can.
But it don't mean nothing until you do the damn thing, right? So in terms of thinking, that is my recommendation. In terms of action, and back to the 0 to 1, if it's in your head, write it down. If you've written it down, tell somebody, and then get the hell out of the way. That's it. That's how you make it happen.
And so, Matt, we have our quote for the episode. It's do the damn thing.
Do the damn. That is the title. Do the damn thing with Jen and Jess.
Yes.
Well, and with no BS. I mean,
Yes. Yes.
We got it right there. We should all team up.
Well, it started. I mean, again, we started when we did the live streams. Our very first time, we were doing the letters.
I did the agenda.
We had the agenda, and so we like had a plan because we were going to talk about some squishy, soft things, taking the 5S tool and applying it to personal relationships. And so it was going to be soft and squishy. So like our plan was we have to make sure we continue to tie it back to construction and the tools and the work, and how we have to make sure if we don't tie it back to it, we're going to lose everybody, even though it's soft and squishy. And so, man, that first time we were like, okay, bring it back. And how does this apply to the daily huddle? And I mean, we were doing it, and all the feedback, all the response was like, just stop talking about that work stuff. Like, we want to know about the stuff outside the gate. We want to know more about like how people are dealing with things, when they go home and with their families and the struggles and the addictions and all those things. And we're just like, what the heck? That wasn't any part of this plan. And so again, we learned, we listened, took the feedback, and then started leaning into that. And then literally that is what everything that has happened from that.
Yeah, 100%.
That's when I started the Substack. I had a whole intention of like, that was good. I was going to try to build a kind of community on that, right? And then I found, and I even had people I had prepped. I'm like, hey, I'm going to go write this thing, and can you leave a comment, try to get a communication or a conversation going in the comments there. I want to kind of build a community around this thing. And even the people I had primed, like, yeah, I'm all in. I'll do this. I love this. This is cool. None of them left a comment.
We know those people. We know a lot of those people.
And so then I realized, then I kind of had a pivot. I've pivoted a few times throughout the thing, but I realized like the community was sort of being built more on LinkedIn. And so I would basically write the newsletter, I'd send it out, and then I would go post on LinkedIn. I think it's kind of what helped grow too. But I'd go post on LinkedIn and be like, hey, I just sent out number 10 or whatever it was at the time. Here's what it's about. Go check it out if you want to. And people would post on there and be like, hey, I loved it. I love this part. The meme was hilarious and blah, 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 blah. And so then I was like, okay, well, that's where the community is kind of being built, sort of. And man, it's just, I've met so many cool people through it. So many cool people in Jess. And
Yeah.
no, I'm very thankful I've met Jess. And then Jess is like, introduced me to Jen and all kinds of other people. And like, it's been cool. I met Chris Gutkes through Jess, and
Yes.
that guy, we got to get him on here. He's an elevator guy. He's more of a diva than Kyle being an electrician.
Truth.
No.
But
There's no bigger diva. Let's be clear on that right now.
I would put money on the elevator guy over the electrician.
I've worked with them. I've seen it, and yeah, you're right.
But no, it's been just like just the networking connection. And it's all because I put myself out there,
Yes.
and all because I started being vulnerable and saying stuff. And I think I told Jess this, but like when I first started the newsletter, like I went and I found Substack and it was free, and I said, sweet, it's free. So I went and signed up, and I didn't even know how to use it. But like I put out a LinkedIn post, and I had like no followers. It was just like people from work and stuff like that. But hey, basically put out a thing that says, hey, I'm going to start this newsletter thing. I'm going to send the first one out next week. If you're interested, go sign up. When I hit send on that or post on that, like that was probably the scariest I've been in my life. Of like, it was terrifying.
I know.
And it was just like, man, like, who am I? Like, why does anybody care what I have to do? Like, complete imposter syndrome. And like, I didn't tell my wife. I didn't tell anybody at work. I didn't tell my boss, whatever. I was like, they were going to shut this down before I even get started, kind of thing. Right. But like the president of our company, like, shared my post and was like, hey, go follow Matt and go sign up for what he's doing. This is cool. And I was like, all right, okay. Well, I thought you were going to, I didn't know. It might get shut down. I didn't know. But it was just the starting. Right. And then it's just been, and now I'm kind of over that imposter syndrome and over what people think and care, because I'm getting enough positive feedback that the negative feedback, I don't worry about that stuff. But it's just doing the damn thing and getting started.
That's it.
We call it ripples of impact. We reference that. That is what it is, because people can get so caught up on the likes and the shares and the followers, and that is great. But I'm going to tell you, I don't care who you are. If you have 10,000 followers, if you have 5,000 likes, you don't know all of those people. You just don't. Like, you may have had some connection somewhere, but you don't know how what you're doing is impacting their lives. You have no idea. And we realize that's one of Jesse's things that bothers him, is like, I want to know everything that impacts everybody that I do. And so, but Jesse, you have a story, and we talk about this early on in how you presented to a group of parents, and then the impact of one of those parents that came back and said how you were talking to her son, I think you were, and then how that you didn't realize how much that meant to her when you were talking about your brother.
Yeah.
Can you tell that story?
Yes, I do have that story.
Can you share it?
Oh.
He's such an ass.
Well, it's in the book. Let me tell you. No, I'm joking. It is in the book, but it was
in the new book.
In the new book, my first book. Yes.
So before you tell the story, tell us about the book. I wanted to talk about this.
Yeah, the book. The title of the book is "Becoming the Promise You Are Intended to Be," and it's a collection of 20 stories of my real life stories from when I was a kid all the way up into recent times, and it's like hurtful, traumatic stuff that I experienced, major disappointment, wicked, selfish things that I did, anything and all of the above, what I learned from those experiences and how I apply them today in my thinking, right? Like, a lot of the thinking I have is because a lot of dumb shit that I did, like, straight up. And there's a lot. And that's only 20 stories. Anyhow, but so the story that Jen's talking about is that it can almost be like the biggest significant turning point in my life that led me here, right? And so I went to speak I was a keynote speaker at a school, like my local school district, SISD here in San Antonio, or back home in San Antonio. And I was speaking to a group of parents it was like 300 parents, about my involvement with my little brother and his academic career. And I did my thing. I loved it because I was center of attention. So hell yeah, sign me up. I'm down, right? Do the thing, done, over with. Then I get invited back later for this other group. It was a parent group where they were helping parents learn how to and practice advocating for the students. Because I grew up Title I school district, low income. Like, we don't go talk to teachers. You don't go talk to the principal. They're educated. You just listen to them, right? What ends up happening is your child can get ignored and put off into the corner if you don't get involved. But because of my community, our culture, etc., that's a very abnormal thing. So this program was designed to help us build those skills. This was the second cohort, and they were doing presentations. And I was invited, since I had been through the first cohort, to be a judge. and give them feedback on their presentations. And so the final question they asked was, have you been involved in your child's academic career? Why or why not? And so, each group gave their answer. And there was one mother, man, this is awesome. She says, no, I have not. My first kid, I believed them. I stayed out of his business. I didn't get all up in there, like just kind of let them do what they wanted. And they're at home on the couch, in trouble with the law. And then she says, and I saw you, and she points right at me. I saw you speak at the parent summit, and I heard about your story with your little brother, and I decided that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to take no for an answer. I am going to the school. I'm meeting all the teachers. She says, I'm never going to I will not wear a college shirt unless it's the college that it's my kid, the school that she's going to. She said, it's because of you. And even now, like it brings a lot of emotion. In the moment, I lost it. I was in tears, like, oh my God. That was awesome. So I'm driving home and I'm like, what the hell just happened? And I'm sitting at home, I'm on my hammock, and Marty, I was dating Marty at the time. She calls, how'd it go? And I'm like, it was awesome, but something happened. And she's like, oh shit. I'm like, yeah. And here's what happened. Like, that was awesome, right? There's a beautiful story. It'll be in the movie. But what happened was I all of a sudden realized live that I could impact people in such a way. I mean, she was a mother. I'm a brother, like, and change the way they decide to live going forward. And what was also true, there was no freaking way I was going to be able to do that again doing the job I had at the time. So that was the old shit, like, oh, you're going to quit your job. I'm like, well, yeah, but not right now, because I still got to figure that out. And so that point was like a huge, huge shift. I'm like, wait a minute, now I need to start changing things so that how do I get free from this job that's consuming all my time and energy so that I can go and serve people in this really deep and meaningful way that I just discovered I could do, and I need more of that. And that's, from that point, there's a whole bunch of other stuff that are in the book. A lot of those stories are in the book, but it was a significant realization, two parts. One, that I could impact and influence people in a deep and meaningful way. And two, I would not be able to do it if I continued living the way I was living, right? Why did I need that job that required 80 hours a week for me? Oh, because I was deep sea fishing every other week. I had a bunch of shiny crap. I had, like, my dad required me to do the job that I hated that was keeping me away from doing the thing that fulfilled me the most and brought the most value to other people. And bam, here we are. Fast forward. That answers
yes, perfect. Now unpackage that one.
Well, that is such a cool story, and to me, the really cool part about it, and where the power comes from, is it wasn't even necessarily like the exact message you were trying to send, right? It's just somebody listened to it, they got their own piece out of it, and they took that and applied it. So you don't even know exactly people you're reaching and how you're reaching them. That's powerful.
Yes, that's the ripples of impact.
Yes,
right. Like, that's what happens when you share your true, real life story, as boring and mundane as it seems to you. It can transform other people. Like, that's it.
Awesome. So well said.
Talking about just your boring story. I mean, it just sometimes, I think somebody need to hear that too, right? Because they just maybe, not, they know, like, construction projects in general, right? There's exciting times and there's times when you're just kind of dragging, right? But I think people sometimes need to hear that too. Like, no, you'll get through it. Like, you'll get back to the exciting times, but just hang in there, and just sharing that alone just like helps somebody kind of going through a a rough spot, through their career and stuff. So
Yeah. It's the value of discovering that I'm not alone.
yeah,
I'm not like this chronically unique, delicate creature, right? Like, oh,
you're not.
well, I am, but I'm special. But like it's not the how do I say this? Like the lack of experience. I'm sorry, the lack of excitement or accolades and all that crap is not an indicator of a deficiency in a human being. It's part of being human being, right? Like if I'm suffering, it's because I'm human, not because I suck. If I'm learning and it hurts, it's because I'm human, not because I'm dumb. If I'm lonely, it's because I'm human, not because of my BO, right? Like, but I think what we do is with we're having the natural human experience, we internalize that outcome as being due to a defect that only I have, which is not true. It's because I'm human, right? And so imposter syndrome. Do I have imposter syndrome because I'm an imposter? Yes, because I'm creating a universe that does not exist. And I got to freaking pretend like it does. I'm an imposter. I'm not the only one. I'm not alone in that, right? But it's easy for me to think I am not enough because I'm not Matt, because I'm not Kyle, because I don't have the credentials, I don't have the degree, I don't have the pedigree that Jen had. Like there's a lot of crap I don't have, but there's a whole lot of crap that I do have. And you know what is also true? It's the same for y'all. So that chronic uniqueness, it's a trap, man. Like it really is a trap, except for me. Like I'm different.
I'll just say I haven't bought your book yet, the one that's coming out this weekend, mostly because I don't need another book on my desk I haven't read yet. They're all stacking up, and I can't have another question from my wife. Like, are you going to read these, or what are you doing? But I will say on Amazon, they you can I read the first chapter, the first preview. I was like, man, you do get vulnerable in there, real quick, real quick.
It's raw. It's raw.
Yeah, that's her. She's read it. Yeah.
It's like there's things that people will question, and they'll like, hey, wait a minute. I mean, even Jesse, I think, has had some people that are like, hey, you're putting a lot out there and you got to get business. You still have to make money, and no, it's raw.
Yeah, it's like the first 3 pages Amazon gives you for free or whatever. I was just like, wow, man. But no, it's good. I mean, like you were saying, like you don't have the pedigree, you don't have the degree, you don't have this thing, but you have all these life experiences which you can share to help somebody else that may be going down the same path or going down and say, hey, man, I've been down that way. You don't want to go that way. Let me help you go this way. And like you're sharing that. So that's such a gift in itself. Yeah.
It's a trap. We all get into it. I mean, like I showed up that way for a long time because I didn't have a construction degree. Like, so, I mean, like literally I felt every day I was trying to prove myself as to why they needed to listen and why I had something to say that was important. Like I showed up that way a lot for a long time until I realized like, because don't have a construction degree, I'm not in this mold and this model that a lot of the people around me are. And so my perspective and the things that I can bring and my superpowers are things that they don't have. And so as soon as Jesse helped me uncover those and own them, and then now when I walk into the room, I am no less than any person in that room. And it's when you can get to that point, like the impact you're able to have and the way that you can show up and how you can help other people, it's just exponential.
I got it. Go ahead, Kyle.
So Jen, how did you kind of get into this? When did you have your moment, if you will, your calling? I mean, when did you decide, you know what, I got to put some effort to this and I got to make this happen? What was that like for you?
Oof. So I've been with Robbins & Morton for this year will be 20 years. And so 20 years ago, before that I was a teacher and a coach, and then like had fun, enjoyed it, but realized like that was not going to be a career for me. And so I just went out looking, and like I had no experience with construction, got into construction. Robbins & Morton gave me an opportunity and then kind of let me go. And I just went all over the place. But about almost 8 years ago, Robbins & Morton kind of started down their lean journey because of some projects and things like that. And then we found, hey, there's a better way to do things. So we're going to get a group of people together. And I wasn't even in that initial group, but there were some, group of a lot of field people got together, and then they kind of launched, this initiative within Robbins and Morton. And I got invited to come and sit into an onboarding, and it was on a job site, and we had, all of our trades in there, and we had people up in the front of the room talking about collaboration, continuous improvement, creating a learning culture, and leadership development in front of a trailer with all field people talking about those 4 things. And I'm in the back of the room going, what the heck are they talking about? Because, I spent so much time learning all the nuts and bolts and all the things about construction because I wanted to be validated and have credibility. And they're up there talking about things. And so we started having this engagement, and I'm like, I don't even know what this is, but this is the purpose of why I exist. And it was just, again, a spark. And then for 4 years, I did my job. And then I also learned everything I could about not just lean and the tools, but like the respect for people and the value of what that could do to eliminate waste, to, help with production, to like help us with how we treat people. And what does that look like, and be more efficient? Like, I just dug into asking questions and learning about it. And then, was gifted with an opportunity to be able to lead that. And like right now I walk into a room and like, I'm the one leading that in a, $2.5 billion construction company. Like, what the hell, how did that happen? And it was just because a spark got lit, and I didn't just go, oh, that's nice. That sounds interesting. Let me go back and do my job. I went, oh, no. You done opened this door, and now something different is going to happen. I don't know what it is. And at that point, it didn't exist, and didn't exist for 4 years. And I just kept doing it, and everything else. Sometimes you got to hustle. I'm just going to tell you, sometimes you got to hustle. It is what it is. And then, an opportunity came up, and I said, hey, I think this is what we need, and I think this is what I need to do. And they agreed. And then that's what I've been doing for the last 4 years.
I love that, and I'll just go really shortly here, Matt, and you can talk. But my experience is kind of similar. I mean, it came from the field, but I'm going to say the similar part, kind of with your story and your situation. My journey started from somebody that's not even in construction. I was on a construction project, and I had this idea. The project was going terribly. I got brought in halfway through. It was a complete disaster. And I mean, the GC was running the site. They had complete control over everything. I mean, it was tense. You walk into the meetings, everybody's pissed off. No one wants to say a word. One of those kind of jobs. And so I get brought into this thing. It's a mess. I'm trying to think, how in the hell am I going to make anything come out of this and get out of this job unscathed? It was a new client for me too, because I'm like, oh geez, I got to make something happen here. The best idea I had was to take our drawings and put a piece of plexiglass over them, and have all the contractors with dry erase markers. All right, guys, where are you going to work, and what are you doing? Let's have a discussion. At the time, I didn't even know that was a daily level. But one day, the project manager, actually the director of the project managers, is walking the job site with me. He comes into the trailer, sees that, and he's like, oh, that's kind of cool. Is that yours? And I'm like, yeah. So they come up with it. He's like, oh, that's like your lean construction thing. And I'm like, yeah, that's what it is. And I had to look it up later. I had no idea. And so that got me interested. I was like, oh, well, that's kind of a cool thing. And then I was just hooked. Been hooked ever since. I can't get enough of it. But the idea came from somebody who's not even in construction. I mean, I love that.
Nice.
All it takes is a little seed to get you going, huh?
That's it.
So Jen, I gotta ask, because you kind of touched on this a second ago. You were talking about when you said you were a teacher and a coach. You talking about like high school coach and teacher? Huh? Okay. And you came over to construction. You kind of felt an imposter because you didn't belong or whatever, right? I see. I just want to say this to all the women in the industry, because I see so many women in the industry, and I've never said this out loud, so I may have to go edit this out, but that they come into the industry and they feel like they got to prove themselves so hard. It's almost awkward at times, right? Like, just be yourself. Just do it, And it's almost they're doing themselves a disservice because they're working too hard. It's that's Forgetting Sarah Marshall clip where he says, do less. I just want to say, just do less. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, but I just see it time and time again. Women feel like they've got to really over prove themselves. And And I'm sitting there just like, no, just be yourself. Like, I don't know.
No, 100%. And we have more than just one book to talk about, just so you know.
Oh yeah.
And so we have actually, I have a story in the book that Jesse and I co-wrote. And so we took the 5S love letters that he had, and then we did live streams, and then we had some feedback. I'm like, hey, it'd be great to have like a little cheat sheet of all the little cool takeaways. And then as Jesse dove into that and realized really quick he was not going to put the time into that, then we started. Then he made, he decided, hey, why don't we do a book? And we're like, oh, okay. So anyway, we co-wrote a book, Lean in Love, and it talks about it takes all the conversations from the live stream and then some other, copy that we put in there. But there's a story in there that I talk about on it and how it can be detrimental almost for women to show up that way. And so it's a story about a woman in my space that would come in, and because she felt like she had to prove herself and had to come in real big and bold because I got to make sure they respect me, she turned off all the other women. And they just like, why does she have to come in like that? Because we respect her, we value her, but it ended up hurting those relationships while she was trying to prove herself in a space that there may have been other men that was like, she doesn't need to do that. We value her. But the default is I've got to come in and I've got to show them that I'm credible. And I've got to show them that they need to respect me. And I'm going to tell you from a woman that's been in this industry for 20 years, respect is earned. And I'm not saying, people don't need to respect you from the get-go, but like respect is earned. And so if you come in and you show up and you do the work and you do the things that you're supposed to do, and you're building those relationships and, and you're creating an environment of trust and authenticity and things like that, it will come. Now, again, we don't have a perfect industry. We know there's going to be things that people have different mindsets. But if you show up every time with your armor and I'm going to come in and I'm going to make sure I let everybody know that I deserve this, you're going to push more people away than you are going to get them to go, oh yeah, I believe her because of how she's showing up. It's just, there's just less people that are going to buy into it because of that.
May I add to that?
Please.
Because there's a couple of things that I think are really, really important. One is, yes, right? There are some women that show up and it's like, oh my God. But it is a response to the conditions that they've worked in.
Absolutely.
And so what I want to add, like that's just a fact.
Yeah.
For folks like Matt, you and I, Kyle, I think we will probably all demonstrate appropriate respect for ladies on the job. To assume that all dudes out there do the same thing is a mistake.
That is true.
Right?
That's very true.
And so we need to be cautious in not projecting out and giving people undue credit. Because there was a time in my career when I saw a woman on site and she had to be the secretary. Because what else would she be doing? Like my brain, and it happened actually. I was talking to her and she was like bossing me, and I get a call from the office like, hey, why were you rude to so and so? I was like, I don't know why she's pushing me for my plan. Like, why would the secretary be jumping my ass about my plan? And then my project manager said, stupid, that's the project executive. Like, mind blown. My ignorance. I'm not the only ignorant fool out there, is my point. There's a bunch of men out there that just are still back there. So we're creating that situation. Very, very important. So how do we help that? There was Women Talk Construction. Christy and Angela just had a post about allies or being a male ally, this type of messaging. We have to stand up and be vocal about what appropriate behavior is in terms of women and inclusion and all those things. Now, the other thing I want to add is it's not only women that show up that bring that type of air, the off-putting air. It's also the tots, the youngsters that have just got out of university and entered the construction space. As a trade partner, you know how many times I experienced that? Like the fool, the taco boy, all of a sudden got promoted to APM, and he's freaking Genghis Khan all of a sudden. Like I've seen that happen many times, and what I think it is, we're overcompensating because of our lack of experience, because of the body of work that we don't have.
Mhm.
And this takes us all the way back to where you started, Matt. Like if you just say, I don't know, can you show me? Can you teach me? You're gonna get way further than being a damn poser. That's it.
I think it's true. And I mean, Jen said it, respect is earned. And I mean, I'm a white male, like, so I've quote got it made, right? Especially, the industry is full of white males, so, but how many times I've been called college boy, and it's not nearly the same as like thinking all women should be a secretary. I get it. But like, still, like you've got to earn your spot, but you got to do it the right way. You can't come in there. And I mean, I learned, almost everybody's got to learn the wrong way first, right? You got to learn that you do it wrong, and then you learn, oh, don't do that again. So I had to learn, like, it's probably not a good idea to send emails at 10 o'clock at night after I've been drinking whiskey. Like, that's not a good idea. And especially when you're kind of in an email battle with somebody. Like, so you've got to sort of, sometimes you got to scrape your knees before you learn to ride your bike. So, but I don't know. I don't have anything to add other than I love that conversation.
Yeah. Hell yeah. That's awesome. But and I got maybe another thing for people to think about, right, is there's a lot of role models. And here's like the super special thing, back to kind of the community that we've all discovered within each other's community of creators. I mean, Matt, you were the first one that pointed out the number of construction LinkedIn profiles was like 200 some odd thousand. And the percentage that are actually active.
I stole that from David Haresh from 4M Analytics. But he did the research kind of through LinkedIn's ad profile, whatever. But I forget the numbers now. It's been a while. But it was like there's like 450 million people that are in construction, however they classify in construction on LinkedIn. And then it was like, I forget the numbers, but it ended up being like 0.0004% are, quote, active on LinkedIn. Yes. Whatever active means, like once a month, once a week, whatever it is, right? But like,
yeah. Well, and Jen and I were having this conversation with Jared. Is like, if you're looking for examples, people that demonstrate the behavior that our industry needs, all of the hyperactive people on LinkedIn, like us, Jason Schroeder, Adam Hoots, Felipe, like all of these people, Spencer Easton, I mean, Christy, Angela, like we could just keep naming them, right? There's a core, I'll say there's like this core group that if you want to see what it looks like, recommend somebody to LinkedIn, recommend them, lead them to Construction Yeti, lead them to CM Mentors, lead them to Jennifer Lacy. There are resources and models out there right now that we can guide people to.
That's a great way to put it. And I mean, all I can add here to finish things out for me is just that, I mean, I don't think any of us here on this call, most people in this group, would turn people away. People come to us, ask questions, ask for help. We're all open. I mean, do it all the time, and I enjoy doing it too. So.
Yeah.
I feel bad whenever I don't get back to somebody fast enough. I got flooded. Like I had that one post that went viral or whatever, and then I got flooded with messages, which I was happy to help everybody, but then some of them got lost in the shuffle, and I was scrolling back, and it was like been a week and a half, and I hadn't responded. I was like, "Oh crap, man! I wanted to get back to you, and I just didn't."
Yeah.
So how can people find you guys? I know you are everywhere, but how can people find y'all?
For me, LinkedIn's the easiest way. And I mean, if you go there and you find me and you DM me, I'll send you my email. I'll send you if we need to connect anywhere outside of that. But LinkedIn's usually the best place.
Yeah, I'm old school. You'll find my number in the porta potty or the bathroom wall.
No. I write it on every porta potty I go in out here. So
call this number now.
Yeah, I'm also most active on LinkedIn. But you can also get me through my website, depthbuilder.com, and all the stuff, the books, book 1, book 2, blog, all the junk. It's available there. TikTok.
You can find us on No BS with Jen and Jess
Oh,
too,
yeah, there's
because
that
then you
thing.
can find us both together.
Is that every other Saturday?
Every other
Yes,
Saturday.
coming up
This Saturday.
this Saturday.
We
We
got
have
live.
Saturday morning, 7:30. 8 o'clock Central in the morning. Every other Saturday morning.
Awesome. I'll put all the links into the show notes and stuff. But I got to say, congratulations, Jess. You got a big. This by the time this thing airs it goes live next Tuesday. It'll be last weekend.
Yes.
Is you would have had a big book party. So I hope
And
you.
we're live streaming the book party tomorrow.
So by the time this thing goes live, can they watch the book party replay?
Yes.
Yes, that's what I meant. Thank you.
I'm talking about the future about last weekend. Next weekend. So anyway, I'll have all the notes in there, but we've kind of run over an hour here, and I know y'all got to go get on stage. So y'all got to jump from one party to the next party. So I'll see y'all later.
Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Yeah, thanks so much. Let's do this again.
Y'all are
Yes.
awesome. Peace.